Just when America has reached a breaking point with division, visionary influencer Danny Benson's I'm Proud of You Sis Bro movement taps into the pulse and heartbeat of a culture radically torn. But this loving mom's voice of reason and calm has received national recognition.
How'd you balance having your children and always traveling with the Yankee organization?
When I became a dad, I said that I would always love like a mother.
I feel like I have to try certain things or act a different way because I know some people or some kids.
So join Danny Benson as she celebrates her special guests on her show and highlights their gifts and contributions to our world.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. I'm proud of you, sis. Please like, share, follow, and comment. And also, I just want to let you guys know that I do come on cable television Optimum every Thursday on channel 20. So please, if you're not able to catch this show live, you could definitely tune in into Optimum channel 20 on Thursdays. My little cousins tell me they watch me all the time. So that's like so super cool. I want to say May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And you know me, I'm a mental health advocate, especially for the youth. I love the youth. I believe in the youth. I mean, they have so much promise, and it's probably because I'm a mom of twins and I just pour into them because I know it's so important to pour into our youth to make sure that they're going to be the greatest citizens on earth in the future. But I have a great guest on. She is a social worker, an ordained minister. She also works with special needs children in the foster care system, and also advises the parents. And what breaks my heart is like you don't ever want a child to go into the foster care system, but sometimes it is needed to protect the child and to protect their interests and to keep them away from something that could potentially harm them. So, but I know that's like a very difficult decision to be separated from your loved ones, your parents, the people that you know, and the family that you know. So I have Ashley Koprosky here. Did I say that right? Koprosky. I think I said that right. She's going to correct me as soon as she comes in the show. But I have her here, and we're going to talk about special needs kids, mental health. It's in May. Shout out to everyone who's going to therapy right now. I've been to therapy. It works. You just got to find the right therapist. It's like a relationship. It's like you find the right guy, the right girl, the right significant other. It's the same thing with your therapist. I'm telling you, you find a good therapist and they will heal you as best that you want to be healed, because sometimes they give you direction. It doesn't mean that you're going to take it or not. So at the end of the day, it's up to you if you want to heal or not. But I want to say welcome Ashley to the show. Hi, Ashley. How are you?
Hello. Hi, Danny.
Hi.
Thank you so much for having
you?
me.
You know what? I'm so happy you're here. We've been planning this for months because I went for Women's History Month. We met and you were such a beautiful light. So I wanted to give you your flowers because you're doing so much for the community. You're a volunteer for Pal Girl Talk, where you mentor and have workshops. And you know what? It's the people like you who keep our community like moving and healthy, or try your best to keep it healthy, because what happens is sometimes a lot of people get lost, and it's volunteer people like you who's giving their time to make sure that the people who need the most help get it. So I just want to say thank you so much for helping the youth in the community, especially the special needs youth. And I know you're in foster care. So just tell me, how is it dealing with children who are foster care and also has special needs?
Yes, yes. Well, thank you so much, Danny, for those kind words. And, honestly, I'm just so happy to be able to do something that I'm passionate about, and I feel like we all have an opportunity, a chance to make a difference. And we should, if we can help somebody, we should do that. So thank you for those kind words. So I've worked within the foster care system for about 10 years. In June, it will be 10 years.
Oh,
And
happy
oh,
anniversary!
thank you, thank
Happy
you,
anniversary!
thank you. Yes.
I'm so proud of you, sis. 10 years. That's
Aw,
dedication.
thank you. Yes. And I love it. I feel like I definitely found my niche in the world and, in the community. And for 7 of those years, I have worked with children in medical foster care. So these are children that might have some developmental delays like autism or some type of medical condition. We work with children that have had heart transplants, that have had open heart surgeries before they're even 5 years old. Some of these children have had leukemia and different types of cancers. So to me, these are some of our most vulnerable children. These are children that they don't often have a voice for themselves, and they've experienced so much trauma. We don't know a lot of times what they've experienced before they come to us. And then we know that, as you mentioned earlier, it's not an easy thing. It's traumatic in itself to be in foster care. So now you're separated from your family, from your school at times, from your neighborhood. So they've experienced a lot of trauma, which can really come out in their behaviors. So a lot of times children that have been suspended from school, that they can't stay in one single foster home because they're acting out. And then when we have children that are autistic or have some developmental delay, have Down syndrome, and they're not able to fully express themselves, it's going to come out in their behaviors. They're going to have meltdowns. They're going to have tantrums. We're going to be able to see that in their behavior. So they need a specific type of parenting to meet those specific needs. And that's the class that I run. It's called Unique, and it is a parenting class for parents that have children in foster care that have special needs. And we discuss different techniques and how to meet those needs so the child can ultimately succeed. That's the goal, right? Even though they're in foster care, even though they have a special need, we still want them to have the best life that they can. We don't want them to have a disadvantage. We want them to succeed and to thrive, even with life giving them those setbacks.
So when they're in foster care, some kids end up being in foster care until they become adults.
So it can happen. It definitely can happen. I've seen youth that have been discharged at age 22, 23. But it really depends on when the child came into foster care. So if the child came, there is a law in New York State that says that if a child has been in foster care for 15 out of 22 months and they're not able to return back to their parents, then we have to now explore other options. And that would be a relative or a friend getting guardianship of the child. That could also be adoption, or a youth being discharged to themselves. So we would set them up with housing, with income, to make sure that they can live independently on their own. So it really depends on so many. A lot of times there's delays in cases because of the court. I know, this one family that, a child was in care for 8 years. And a lot of that was due to just delays in family court. A lot of times there isn't a court date for months, and then sometimes those court dates are adjourned. So that is a big contribution to the delays. And then we also want to make sure that the child is discharged in a safe way, whether it's to their parent, to a friend of the family, a relative, or themselves. And sometimes that takes time too.
So, sometimes, so what breaks my heart is that, of course, they have to be taken away from the family, because obviously if they're taking them away, that home wasn't a safe home for them to be at. Correct? Is that
Right.
how I understand it?
Right.
So it must be even harder to have special needs on top of that,
Mm-hmm.
because if you can't be with your family, now the person who decides to who is in the foster care service, like the parents who take these kids in, that is another great a great responsibility within itself. So how do you coach parents that have to take in special needs kids? Because they're, first of all, they're special. I think
Mm-hmm.
I think the way kids are is, I don't think there's one way of learning. So I hate when they say special need. I hate that, because I feel that there's different ways of learning, and sometimes kids are acting out because they're emotionally immature. Because
Mm-hmm.
we never really teach kids how to express their feelings, and they don't really
Mm-hmm.
understand expression of feelings, or even if they're going through a trauma, they don't even understand that it's a trauma,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
they don't even have the words. And sometimes kids think that this is like a normal thing, and they think that all kids are going through this also.
Mm-hmm.
How do you prepare a parent in the foster care system who are taking these kids in?
That's an excellent question, and so important as well, because the foster parents who are taking the children in, they are the ones who are with the child day to day. So they're taking on that parenting responsibility for the child. So their role is so crucial, because that child is that foster parent is going to be there when that child wakes up at night crying, when they come home and maybe there wasn't a great visit with their biological parent, maybe they're having an issue in school. It's the foster parent that is the one that is going to address those immediate issues and immediate concerns. So every foster parent does go through trainings. And I do want to mention, a lot of the foster parents that we work with, most of the ones that I oversee right now, are what we call kinship foster parents. So these are grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, teachers, guidance counselors, nurses, someone who had a relationship with the child before this issue happened, that said, you know what, I want to become this child's foster parent. And a lot of times, especially when we're looking at families, a lot of times we can see the same cycle, so we see the same cycle if a grandparent takes in the child that we see with the parent and then the child. So a lot of times the kinship foster parents do need training, because they're just here. They didn't expect this. They didn't, they're just here because they want to help out their family member. They don't want their child to go to a stranger's home. So they get specific training from, we have a foster parent department. So someone called a home finder is assigned to the foster parent, who certifies their home, tells them about the trainings. And then each case has a social worker who's assigned to that family. So the social worker also provides more personalized training during home visits, during phone contacts, because we're in the homes. We see what's happening. We see the whole picture. So they also get that feedback from the social worker as well. And then there's also, if a child has services, like if they're receiving counseling, if they're receiving behavior therapy, then the foster parent can also receive specific training from that person as well. And that's also very helpful, because you're adding that therapeutic lens in with just the day-to-day parenting.
Wow, that is a lot to take on. I commend any parent, family member, guardians who actually take the role of being a foster parent, because first of all, I know they're going to have a hard time, because they have to deal with the fact that the kid knows that's not their mom, the kid knows that's not their dad.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And sometimes when they know this, they tend to act out even more.
Right, absolutely.
Because they're gonna say, you're not my mom, you're not my dad, you can't tell me what to do. Like, and then also it's like the relationship, because people that I know that are foster parents also have their own children. So how does that dynamic work? Do you also have the children come in to be part of these like therapeutic sessions, because it does affect them too also?
Right. Absolutely. And I do also love that you brought up the fact that that the child is aware that who they're with is not their biological parents. And this is especially important for children who have developmental delay, even specifically autism, because any change of routine can be very difficult for a child who is autistic. And then that's where we see certain behaviors. So sometimes, parents might say, oh, this child is so defiant, this child is so disobedient, when really these are behaviors that are coming out because, one, of the autism, and two, all of these changes that they're trying to process. This is what can trigger a meltdown. This is what can trigger a child freezing up, a child who might not have been aggressive before and is now showing more aggressive tendencies, because now they do have all of these changes. And especially a child with a developmental delay, it's hard for them to process, and it takes longer. They have a longer processing speed. It takes them longer to process things, to especially change, and to express that. So it's definitely something that has to be discussed, and that there has to be training available for. So I went on my little tangent. I forgot the question.
No, you're doing fine. No, the question was, do the kids who also live in the home that like those are their biological parents? I know the reason I say this, I have like this memory. It's like my parents, I love my parents so much. My parents used to be foster parents.
Oh, wow.
I remember, her name is Angela, and I wish there was like Facebook back then, because I probably would have been in communication with her now. But the crazy thing is, we were going through, it's so weird how you have like mental blocks, like you go through life, but then there's periods of life that I don't know, that doesn't, you don't maybe because you don't remember, you're not doing it all the time. So I was going through like an old photo album, because back then there was photo albums, and I saw this, and you know what it is? It's so crazy. My parents had a Caucasian child named Angela. Wow. She was blonde with blue eyes.
Wow.
And she lived with us, and everyone kept, and as a kid, I didn't understand why everyone would always look at us. But now, like growing up, I see why, because they were like, oh, this Black family has a white child. Like, how did this happen?
Right.
Even today, I'm always wondering, like, wow, Dad, Mom, like, how were you able to even have that happen? Because when you're in foster care, don't they usually pair you based on race, or it doesn't even matter? It's like first come, first serve.
Yeah, I mean, the whole goal is to try to match a child with their same culture. That's like the ideal situation. That does not always happen, because there's so many other things to think about. Sometimes there's just not enough foster homes. We have children that, might have been removed from their parents in Brooklyn, but then there's no homes in Brooklyn. So now they're living in the Bronx or Staten Island or, Harlem, just because there are no foster parents available. And then you also have to look at the special needs. Not every foster parent can take a child that has special needs. You also have to look at space. So it really depends, but the ideal, situation would be for the child to be placed with their same culture.
Got it. So basically with their same race.
Right. With their same race, with their same even religious preference, even within race, to try to match their culture as well, like their ethnicity, even like children who don't speak English, to be placed in a home that they can feel comfortable in.
Like they speak the same language, right?
Exactly.
Because if a child, for instance, speaks Spanish, they would probably want to place a child at a home that also speaks Spanish too, especially depending on
Yes.
the age of the child, and maybe they don't know English yet because they're
Yes.
so young. So they would probably want to match a child with a home that they can easily communicate.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And then that helps them with the transition. They can feel comfortable. And, again, that can help them succeed. And that can also decrease behaviors, because if you have a child that is in a home that doesn't speak your language, that child isn't going to get that nurturing that they need, that support that they need, because they're not going to be able to understand. So, we do try to do that. I know of one family where it was an Asian family, and the child was placed with a Spanish speaking family, and the child ended up learning 3 different languages, Chinese, English, and Spanish, but he also did need speech therapy because of all the different languages that he was exposed to. So, we don't ever want to cause any more delay or barrier to a child's success. So, the ideal situation would be for a child to be in that same culture. And if that's not possible, then to continue to look for a home that they would be able to go to that would match their culture.
So on top of these children having pulled from their home, going to foster care, having special needs, and now the mental health awareness, like I know kicks into me because, like we said before, it's a trauma.
Right.
So then, how are these kids coping with all of this going on all at the same time? And that's what people really need to understand. Like I feel like people have to stop the judging of especially of the youth, because we were all young at one time. We all did stupid things that, because we're young, our brain is not completely fully developed until the age of 25. And also you don't know what that youth has been through. You might be looking at an action, like you said, they might be defiant, they might get into fights into school, they might be doing all of these adverse things that in normal in society be like, oh no, this kid is a problem child. I put the label of the problem child on that kid. I know it sounds Pollyannish. I feel like sometimes those kids just need a hug.
Absolutely.
Maybe they need to know that someone loves them.
Yes.
Someone cares about them. Because I just think with human nature, I know it's corny, but like, the saying, like, all we need is love. Sometimes I think like that is like one of the biggest secrets that is right in our face, but we don't really use that emotion to heal the world and foster peace.
Yeah, I think that's right on. A lot of these children, we don't know what they experienced, and some situations are worse than others. And, some they might not have ever been told that, and a lot of children still have those different trauma reactions or responses, even when they're out of that situation. But to me, when I look at a child, we want to give them that support. We want to we want to really pour into them. But I always feel that we do have to address that child's needs, but the root of those needs come from the parents. So that's where I feel like a lot of our work should be, is with the parents, because these parents, a lot of the parents that we work with, they were in foster care themselves. So now we're working with people that have experienced trauma. They didn't have stability in their lives, and now they're having children, and we're seeing the effects of that on their children. So, I feel like we need to work with both, the child themselves, because they do need that. They need stability. They need structure. They need to have a home where they feel loved, a home where they have all of their needs met emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, physically, and then we also need to, as silly as this sounds, teach parents how to meet those needs, teach parents how to parent. So each parent that we do work with, they are issued a service plan where it's different services, programs to engage in, to address the issue of why the child came into care. So I always feel like we have to work with both. And a lot of times the parents that we work with, they are also, they're a lot of times part of the system as well. Most of the parents we work with, they have limited housing or no housing, or, they don't have income. We work with all different types of parents that, have substance abuse issues, that they're in domestic violence, relationships, and they themselves aren't stable. And then you bring a child into that, and it's very traumatic for everyone involved.
Especially when we don't get a parenting manual. This is like the only time that sometimes I know we're mammals and we're speaking mammals as compared to other mammals who don't. Probably they do speak, but they, I don't know if they say our brain is more advanced versus animals. But one thing we all have in common, including animals, we don't get a parenting manual at all.
It's true.
Like there's no parent, because I was watching a bird outside, and I guess she just had some chickens, like they were hatching eggs, and I was like, damn, how does she know what to do? Like, how does she know? There's no manual, right?
Right. So it's true.
So it's like I guess it's like an instinct that kicks in you that says, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do, right?
Right.
But I think because humans are even more complex, because we're not simple mammals. We actually have experiences that causes sometimes trauma, that triggers sometimes for us to, it triggers not so positive things. And then because we don't have a manual, and then because maybe we don't have a good paying job or a job at all, and then it's like the stress, and then it's like where I'm going to live, and all of a sudden and then you have this child,
right?
It's no excuse, but some parents don't know not to put the stress on the child. Sometimes the parents think that the reason they have the stress is because of the child, right? And especially even when the child has special needs, I can't even imagine someone having a special needs child and not even know how to parent, and not even have the patience, or because whatever God's gonna, sometimes you don't know what God's gonna give you. And I know special needs I think now it's like 1 in 40. Is it 1 in 48 children have some sort of special needs? Because I know I live in Long Island, and I know it's spiked because I speak to speech therapists, occupational therapists. They're saying, I even speak to neuro psychologists, and they said that they're getting kids like
they don't have enough therapists for all of the kids that need them. There's a shortage.
And that is why I want to put like an ABE out there. Kids who are going to school, please go into, I'm not telling you what to do, but if you do have a passion like Ashley, social workers are one of the best occupations on earth. I feel that way because they are helping, they're truly holding up society, like teachers. Do you understand what I mean? Like you're a social worker, which means like I'm working with everyone. Like I'm working socially with everyone to deal with their mental health, to deal with their situation, basically to life be lifing.
Absolutely.
And a social worker comes in and tries to make sense of it all.
Yes, yes, and tries to help and serve. Absolutely, absolutely.
I mean, because your job is being a social worker is a job of service.
Yes, yes, definitely. And that's what drew me to social work. You know, one thing I always say is that I'm so blessed. I don't want to say lucky. I'm so blessed because I always knew this is what I wanted to do. Ever since I was, before I even went to college, I knew I wanted to help people. And this was even before I was, a real Christian. I
What
just
does
knew I
that
wanted
mean? What does that mean? A real
a
Christian?
real Christian. Well, if you want to,
Yeah, I
get
want
into
to know.
my
What does
story a
that
little
mean?
bit. Well, I mean, I was raised as a Christian. I went to a conservative, private Christian school when I was younger. But as soon as I can make my own decision, I turned away from it. I didn't want anything to do with it. I felt like Christianity was just something that judged people. I felt that I just didn't belong. I didn't feel like, this was something I wanted to do. So
Wait,
as
wait, how old were you when you made that decision?
I would say probably high school age. Sorry, it's my cat. High
No, it's
school
okay. My
age.
puppy does the same thing. So, but wait a minute. When you were in high school, you wasn't still continuing to be in that private conservative like school, or they put you in
No,
public. They put you in public.
Yep. I begged my mom. I begged my mom to put me in public school. I said I did not want to go to the school anymore. She was nervous, and I begged her to let me go to public school. And I will tell you that I felt so much more comfortable in public school. One example, my parents, they divorced when I was 8 years old. It's a pretty common thing, right? In the school I was in, it was like blown up so much. Oh, your parents are divorced. Oh, they're living in sin, all of this stuff. And I'm like, what? And then you go to public school and it's like whose parents aren't divorced, like who doesn't have a blended family, who doesn't. So I just felt so much more comfortable. But then honestly, I turned away. I turned away from Christianity. I wanted nothing to do with it.
But that's why
And
your mom didn't want you to go.
yes,
That, right?
right. Right,
She
right.
knew once you had the taste of the public,
Hmm.
she knew that you were going to you were gonna she knew you were gonna shift, because when you go to public school, you go to school with all types of
With
people from
everyone,
all different
yes.
races, all
Yes.
different religions, whatever genders, whatever your assigned gender is. It's public, it's
Hmm.
open to the public, right? So
Yes,
that's
yes.
why sometimes parents want to keep their kids in private school, because
Hmm.
they feel that everyone is like-minded.
Yes, yes.
But I
But
know it was tough on I know obviously it was tough on you, because being a
yes.
divorced child at 8 years old and going to a Christian school, they say thou shalt not get divorced, right?
Right, right, right. Exactly, exactly. So I mean, I'm sure that's why. And yeah, I think I just wanted to live my own life. I didn't want to, live under rules. I just wanted to party and this and that. And then it wasn't until I was in college that I had different situations. A lot of it was also mental health related. I was going through some of my own mental health issues, a lot of depression. I felt at some point, why am I even here? What's the purpose? Like, why I didn't even want to be here at one point. And then my whole life changed when I started going to a church in my I believe it was my junior year. I mean, my sophomore year of college. I went to Adonai Community Tabernacle with Dr. Glenn and Dr. Juliet McBride. And the first day that I stepped into that church and I heard Dr. McBride speak, it was like something in me changed. And it was like, for the first time, I felt like I had purpose, that I was here for a reason and that God loved me, that God was here, and that just gave me more passion. Like I said, I always wanted to be a social worker. I always wanted to help people. I always wanted to make a difference. But when I really committed my life to God, I feel like I was more effective. Because I remember one thing when I was living my own life and I wanted to help people, but I remember thinking, I don't know how to help you. I don't know what to do to help you. And I remember afterwards, now I had all these tools that I could use, and prayer, prayer changes things. We can pray, And then I was amazed because I was really getting into a lot of the social work aspect of things, like in my college around the same time that I really did commit to God. And I remember actually like hearing the same principles on both ends. Because a lot of people, they'll think social work is all liberal and this and that, but social work and Christianity have so many similarities. God wants us to serve. God wants us to love others. He wants us to have a good quality of life, to live at a higher state of being. And that's what social workers do. We help people. We love the fatherless. We feed the homeless. We house the homeless, feed the hungry. That's what we do. We're agents of change. And I remember my pastor had done a whole series of that, being agents of change. And then I went to one of my social work classes, and in the front of the textbook, it said agents of change. So, a lot of those principles overlap. And I work in a secular environment. I work in an environment that is not, faith-based, but my faith really does impact how I do my work, and how I see things, how I make decisions, even sometimes being spiritually led, where someone might say something and the Holy Spirit might say, this is what's going on. Ask them this question, and that's loving people, serving people. That's what Christianity is about. It's not about, it's not always about being in the pulpit. It's not always about leading the next worship song. It's about loving people, serving people, helping people. And that's why I'm glad to have that opportunity. Even if I don't share it with that client that I'm working with, even the feedback I'm giving, is my faith is impacting that. And then later on, when I go home, I'm praying for them. I'm praying, that God will, break those generational cycles. God would help them separate from a difficult partner, from an abusive partner. That even things like, I was speaking to a client the other day and they were having issues with their housing, even that God would just expedite that housing application, get them into housing, just whatever it is that they need. Because I know when I know when I needed people to be there, people were there praying for me, helping me. And I don't take that for granted, and that's where, we have to also, well, I'll just leave it at that. That's why,
Continue. That's where we have to also.
So I think that's also, why we have to be led by God, when we are where God wants us to be, that is where we'll get what we need. So it really comes down to obedience, I think that, like I said, I'm so grateful for the people in my life that have prayed for me, that have been there for me. And I try to keep them in my life, and a lot of times that's where you'll get your blessing, that in that prayer, in that interaction, in just serving however God is telling you to serve, and just being obedient, that a lot of times will give you what you need. Sometimes we're stuck because we're not being obedient, but if we're obedient, then that's where we can move forward. That's where we can go to that next step. That's where we get what we need. So,
how do you know when God is speaking to you?
That's a great question. So I think that, one, you have to know who is speaking to you, So, for example, if you know someone very well, you're going to know their voice. So when you get to know that person, you know how they are, you know their tendencies. Also, I think sometimes as Christians, we can kind of spiritualize things too much. God left us a whole book of what it is he wants us to do or not do. So really learning that and reading the Bible, reading his word, we can see, there might be times in our life where we're not sure what to do. But as a Christian, we should never be in a position where we're so hopeless, not knowing what to do, because God has given us strategies for living. It's not just spiritual strategies. These are strategies that we can use every day in our day-to-day lives. So I think, really learning the word, reading it, that is God's word, that is that's God's voice right there. So, we can hear it through there. Also, God will never, sometimes someone might say, oh, God told me this or that. He will never tell us anything that contradicts the word. So I think, also evaluating it, and seeing it. And then there's counsel, if we are in a position, that you don't know what to do, God has given us counsel. There are people in my life that if I don't know what to do, I'm going to give them a call. I'm going to give them a text. I'm going to, communicate that and see what they think. And sometimes it could be just something so small, as sometimes it can be a big decision. And, there's wisdom in counsel, so I would say all of those strategies, as well as just hearing, as far as hearing the Holy Spirit, I feel like that is also something that you grow into. When I first, came to know, came and committed myself to God, I can't say all the time that, oh, I knew that was God or not. But now I feel like, okay, I can hear that. And a lot of times God will speak to you in your own voice. We have to also be open to hearing it, open to hearing what he has to say. So, and I think that
I'm sorry about that. Go ahead.
It's okay. It's okay. No worries. So I basically can you hear me?
I can't hear you. It's me probably.
Okay.
I'm gonna go out and come back again.
Okay.
Give me 1 second.
Problem. Okay. All right, so we're just waiting for Danny to come back and join us. She just logged out and logged back in, but thank you everyone for logging in today. We've been speaking about my experiences working in foster care for the last 10 years, as well as just my experiences in coming to have a full commitment to Christianity and to God. So I see Danny has joined us back again.
Yes. Sorry about that. I wanted to. Do you think God saved your life? Because it's hearing you talking, and you said previously that you were in a really bad place where you were thinking about taking your life, right? Mm-hmm. And then you continue talking about you when you build relationships with people, like your parents, like even a baby knows their baby knows their mother's voice, right? And their father's voice, right? Because when the parent is talking, you can see the baby head, turn towards the parent's voice. Right. It's the same thing as knowing, God's voice, right? Because when God speaks to you, and I can say that because I have a relationship with God. I talk to him constantly all the time. So I know his voice because I know because I feel it. And sometimes I'm not even talking to him and I feel like he's telling me to do something, and I just and then sometimes when I don't listen to God, I find out why I should have listened to God. He's trying to protect me, and I'm like, oh, because we have free will, right? So sometimes I go against what God is telling me my spirit to do, and then I find out later on, like, oh, okay, I get it. Like, you would take me all of this pain and heartache, but I needed to take the longer way to figure it out. So when you wanted to attempt, I'm not even saying you even were, it wasn't a place where you're going to attempt to take your life, but when you were in that deep depression, what led you to that church? Did someone invite you to go to that church? Did you walk into that church? Because sometimes people invite me to churches and I don't go. And sometimes I'm like, am I supposed to go? Is God telling
Right.
them to ask me because I'm supposed to be at this church so I can hear a certain word? Because then sometimes I do go to the churches and I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, thank you for inviting me because I needed this. I needed to hear this word.
Right, right.
So when you were going through your deep depression, since we are
Mhm.
talking about mental health,
Yes.
what led you to walk into this church? Did someone
Mhm.
invite you, or you just
Mhm.
spontaneously just?
So at the time, I was probably at the lowest point that I've ever been in my life. I was dealing with a lot of depression. I was also, at that time, I was, using different substances, and I had a very bad reaction to one of the substances, and I just felt like in that time that now, as a social worker and in mental health, I know what it is. It's called derealization, where
What
I
is
just
that?
felt it's when you are like almost like disassociated from everything. And that's how I felt. I felt like nothing was real. I felt like, it was to the point where I needed my roommate to like physically touch me, or I felt like I was just gonna like float away. So
Did, did, the, did the drugs do that?
I think so, but even after it wore off, I still felt it. So I was in this like panic mode because I thought this is how it was going to be for the rest of my life. And I remember I was away at college. I came home for the weekend. And I remember speaking to my friends about it. They're like, oh, yeah, that stinks. Oh, and I'm like, no, I need more than that. Like, I need to be better. I need this to go away. And at that time, my mom she had, she was friends with someone that she knew for a while, Joyce Brown, and they had seen each other recently, and we call her now Elder Brown. Elder Brown had invited my mom to the church that I had spoken about earlier, to Adonai. And my mom was just like, nope, I'm done with church too. I'm not going to church. But they were all together. I forget at something. And my mom met the pastors and she's like, oh, they seem nice and everything. After that, she ran into them at the store 3 different times. So then my mom, sometimes we don't hear God. And sometimes, I believe that it's the prayer, prayer of the church, prayer of the McBrides, like prayer that really made that happen and orchestrated that. And my mom was like, okay, let me give it a try. So she tried and she liked it and she was going. And then here I come with all my mental health issues and all this stuff going on. And I remember my mom, like I was home that weekend and my mom was just like, Ashley, what's wrong with you? Because I'm like, at that point I used to smoke. So I'm smoking a lot. I'm biting my nails and all this stuff. Like she could tell visibly something was wrong. And I just really thought I was going to feel like this for the rest of my life. And I just told her, I was like, like, why are we here? Like, what's the purpose of anything? And it's so simple. I swear it's so simple. She's just like, we're here because of God. And I swear, as soon as she said that, the whole feeling just lifted. And I remember I went into my room and I just started like praying. And I'm just like, God, like, forgive me. Like, I want to know you. I want to do better. And the next day I went to the church and that's where, I heard Dr. McBride speak. And it was just like, it like just ignited something in me, and I'm not going to lie, it was a process. I would still go out on Saturday night and then go to church the next day. And then I remember one day I went to church, it was like a few months in, and they just like announced, oh, Ashley's going to help out with the youth. And I'm like, me, Ashley? Like me? And then so I helped, I think I just gave things out like prizes or something. And I went home and it was like, I felt that conviction because I was at a party the night before. And it was just like, what are you going to choose? What life are you going to choose? And I was just like, okay. And I had to put those things away and just go, full force into it. And really, it just changed my life so much. Like I've never experienced peace like I had before. Like I would do anything to have peace before, and now it's like to have that peace now, to be able to pray, to know that you're connected to God, to know that nothing in your life can really, rattle you. Like you go through things. And even as a Christian, I've experienced a lot of difficulty, a lot of other traumatic things, but it's like it's different when you go through it with God, because you know that God is there, that nothing is too difficult for him, that even in difficult situations, God will always come through for you. And that just changed my life so much. It gave me so much purpose. It gave me so much such a focus in life that I craved so much. So I if you asked me, did God save my life? I would say yes, because if I don't know what would have happened if God didn't intervene, and that's also where I have a lot of compassion with the people I work with, because that could have been me. That could have been me talking to myself homeless on the street. That could have been me in the psych ward. That could have been me who did take my life. Who knows what would have happened? But I thank God that he did intervene in my life, and he gave me a life I couldn't even dream of. One time I found an old journal from when I was going through all that, and it was like it wasn't even me. It didn't even sound like me. It literally sounded like someone else, and I was just like amazed by it. So I really thank God for that, and that also, it always impacts my decisions, and how I serve other people, because I want to to make the right decision, but I also, it's being spirit led. It's God gives you clarity of mind and wisdom, to make decisions and to speak to people and to help people that I might not have had. The Bible says that he'll take the foolish things to confound the wise, and that's how I feel sometimes.
So Ashley, I want to give you your flowers. You are a minister, so just let everybody know what church this is, because I'm very curious to know what church this is. And when do you actually do minister at the church? Is it like specific Sundays, or because we I just want to know before we're done and say bye to everybody. I just wanted you to let people know where, because I know when people are listening to this conversation, I know they're going to be like, what church she goes to?
Yes. So I had given you my social media information.
But to just say real quickly. Okay. Yes. Just say real quick. Yeah.
So right now I'm connected. I'm connected with the organization called Sister Talk. I'm the vice president of Sister Talk, which is founded by Dr. Juliet McBride. So that is the ministry. So Dr. Juliet McBride is one of the pastors that I had mentioned earlier, and she is the founder and CEO. And then I assist her with that. Sister Talk is also on Facebook. You can find that as well. And like you had mentioned earlier, I do help and minister and serve in a lot of different capacities as well. But Sister Talk would be the ministry that you can look up.
Well, thank you so much, Ashley, for coming on. I'm proud of you, sis. Please, everyone, please go check out Ashley. You sound so amazing, so inspirational. I know there's someone out there that your talk today has helped and maybe have saved their lives. But I want to say thank you so much for everyone to come on. I'm proud of you, sis, and I will see everyone next week. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.